Tibetan mountains that has reached an altered state near nirvana, kind of a blob-vana, if you will. And there are rumors that he has attained a state of 0 calorie burn.
Couch body. Welcome to Lunch Therapy. I am your host, Joel Marshall. This is Interview Friday. Interview Friday, we have an interview with an interesting person. A lot of times they're comedians. Sometimes they are clowns. Sometimes they are existentialists. We have a wonderful guest today. We've got Lisa Orkin on the show. She's a comedian. She's a podcaster. She's been in the business for quite some time. She has a hilarious Instagram. We're going to show some of that on the show. It's called Lisa Orkin-gram. Greg Wurla is here. I'm a graduate of the Slav Academy. I have averaged 800 steps a day for the past 4 weeks. Congratulations, Greg Wurla. And thank you to our sponsor, Slob 90X, the workout for a slow, lazy, ordinary body. Yeah. Hello, Lalitha. Good day. Good day, sir. Good day, madam. And thank you for being here. I've got a great guest. You're going to love Lisa. Let's get into the show. It is called Lunch Therapy. It is called Interview Friday. I'm going to get myself a modem. 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 All right. This is the portion of the show where I try and get you to come to my comedy show. This is called The Ice House in Pasadena. I'm doing the D's Nuts show at 5 p.m. this Saturday. That's tomorrow, 5 p.m. You could go there. You could have dinner, laugh your food right out of your face, and then move on to, like, you know, the birthday party you have to go to, or the Netflix session that you need to do. But come on down to the Ice House Pasadena. If you haven't been there in a while, it's completely changed. It is like being in Las Vegas. The comedians are like the best in town, and you're gonna love it. There's a QR code there. If you happen to have like 2 phones and you're watching on the thing and they're like, hey, I got another phone, I think I'll QR code there. Otherwise, you can go to joelmarshall.com. You can look in the show notes. You can call me on the telephone. Yeah, whatever you want to do, get your ass over there. Lisa, the guest on the show today, Lisa Orkin, she has a show also, Burbank Comedy Festival, Wine, Women, and Wit, Sunday, so it doesn't conflict with mine. You can go on Sunday, August 11th, 5 p.m., also the same time, so easy to remember. It's completely easy to remember. You got your whole weekend lined up there watching hilarious comedians. You're welcome. You're welcome. Now it's time to breathe. Let's see. Oh, we've got Travis Schumacher here from Seattle. Laura K. Lisa is hilarious. Great to see you, Laura K. Glad to have you here. If you have any questions about the show, put them in the chat room. If you have any questions for us, we're going to be talking today about comedy. We're going to be talking about podcasting. We're going to be talking about how to keep our mind right in all of this crazy thing, what it is to get older in the entertainment business, what it is to stay super young and, picture of Dorian Gray type young, or what it is to be wildly successful and have your own show like this one. So come on by, send this to your friends, but first, we're going to breathe. While Travis Schumacher tells us about how he keeps his mind right. In through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. We have always done this on the show ever since the beginning of the show, which was about 4.5 years ago. We have always breathed at the beginning of the show. It always helps. In through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. You can put your hands up if you want. Let it go. One more time. In through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. You are not alone. You are in the right place. I like that. Let it go. You can always be in the right place if you go over to Healing Vibrations on YouTube. They generously allow us to breathe to their singing bowls often, 2 times a week at least. And you can go over there anytime you want. You can subscribe. Sometimes they go on for a long period of time, like 10 hours. You could sleep through the whole thing. Anyway, they're also on Spotify, as you see there. Okay, let's get into this thing. I just have to thank my Patreons. All right, Patreons. We got Patreons on the show. They're some of the most amazing people. They've been with the show, a lot of them, a long time. Their names are up above here. There's a lot of Lopez's in there. It's Jay Patterson, who was on the show The Trust. She's on the show a lot. Pam Palmieri. We're doing a show in Michigan together. Neil Phillips, Seth Ward, Mary Marks, and Todd Lee. Thanks to everybody who donates to the show. Please, patreon.com/Joel Marshall. Feel free to donate, even be a Patreon for free. You can even be. So there you go. There you go. But it's better when you put money in the coin slot. All right, let's go. We're going into this thing called Interview Friday. Interview Friday. Okay, I've got Lisa Orkin on the show. She's waiting in the green room with Boney. He is, of course, trying to make her comfortable, helping. He was pretending to breathe along with her. My assistant Boney is a plastic skeleton. He doesn't have any lungs, but he tries to, play along. Sometimes he even tries to eat. This is another friend of mine. Looks like he's a prairie dog out on the prairie. He's going to help me introduce Lisa. Lisa was introduced to me by the incredible Ginny Sykes, a regular on this show. Lisa is a longtime comedian. She was a paid regular at the Comedy Store. She is a podcaster, but she's also an expert in audio commercials. So she also, has run a business in audio commercials for the radio mainly. And it's a thing called Radio Ranch. She's been doing that for a long time. She's a very successful stand-up comedian and also has her own podcasts, several podcasts. Honestly Lisa, Project Woo Woo, Lisa Upside Down, Love Bites. So I invite you to check that out. She's also got a website where you can consult with her called lisaorkincreative.com. But enough of that. Let's bring her on the show, have her speak for herself. This is Interview Friday.
So I did very little online dating, but I did meet a guy with a frog, and the guy met me at Starbucks, and he brought the frog with him, and he handed me the box with the frog, and I just opened it. I didn't know I wasn't supposed to open it, and the frog jumped out, and he freaked out, and everybody thought he was losing his mind, and I'm like, no, he lost his frog, he lost his frog. Finally, people figured out he really lost his frog and helped us get the frog back in the box, and the frog and him never asked me out again.
Right. Yes. It's great to have you on the show, Lisa. So glad to have you here. I've been
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Oh, good. I'm glad. It's been really fun watching your videos on Instagram and listening to your podcasts. I've only known about you for like a short period of time, so it's just like a breath of fresh air, as they say. Equal Means Equal asked, "Wow, did he want you to kiss his frog? Was it a prince?"
He didn't ask me to kiss his frog. I felt like I should after the whole disaster. Like, should I kiss the guy's frog? Like, is this something I should do? But yeah, no, he didn't. He actually was really uninterested in me after that. Like, he literally was like, "Ah, bye, see you later, goodbye."
Didn't it seem like it was like out of a Bugs Bunny cartoon or something? Hello, my baby. Hello, my darling. Oh, your cat.
That's my cat. I feel like life is a Bugs Bunny cartoon.
It is.
Anyways, I feel like everything's kind of weird and cartoony.
Has it gotten, do you think everything's just really weird after COVID now? Like after we're coming out of COVID, and I know it's been a little while.
I guess, it's so funny. I feel like because I feel like every time I'm somewhere, I feel like the people, like if I'm like at a restaurant, I'm like, has everyone been cast for this job? Like, is everyone, did they just like, is this real anymore? Is this all fake? Now it just feels like we're all fake.
Yes, it does. It feels like we're all fake.
Like we're playing roles.
I played Bugs Bunny at Magic Mountain. And I felt more real doing that than a lot of the things that I do.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite jobs, I got to tell you.
Wow. Hot? Was it hot?
Oh my God. You're wearing like a rug and it's 105 degrees in the desert.
Oh my God. That would not be my favorite job.
If I were to do it now, I would die.
Yeah.
I would completely pass out. There were a couple times where I got kind of like, whoa, and I probably got some drain damage here and there. But I did. I would start to pass out. But luckily, as it got hotter, the sets got shorter. Like we do a 30-minute set and then 25, 20, 15. You know what? Good. In retrospect, it was super fun because you make people happy. You make people super happy.
Yeah, that's good. There's that in life. Yeah.
Isn't that kind of like one of the goals? Do you think that's one of the goals, to make other people happy?
I think it is one of the goals. I'm just so hard. I'm so in my own head. I just don't want to fail anybody. That's what I feel like all the time. Like, I just don't want to fail anybody. Like, am I being a good mom? Am I being a good worker? Am I being a good... actually, the comedy, I don't care if you think I'm a good comic or not.
Well, but yeah, that's a good question, though. Like, people wonder about the mindset of a comedian. Some people say, they're just there to make people laugh. And other people say, I don't care what the people think. I'm just going to do my thing. Where do you fall in that?
It just depends on the day. I always feel like I don't care. I'm going to do what I'm going to do either way.
Yeah.
If you like me or not. If you laugh, it does help my soul, and I think it helps their soul. So laughter's good. I like it. I like making people laugh.
Well, there's like a danger in expecting an outcome.
Yeah.
And sometimes, so I think maybe we get a little bit steely about that because we're standing up on stage and we don't want to feel like we're losing, because then we start to crawl back inside of ourselves. A lot of us comedians are actually introverted people in other ways.
Super introverted.
So in order to get on the stage, we have to extrovert. And then as if we have this expectation of how the audience is going to be, and if that's not going the way we planned it, then there's a tendency to kind of crawl back into your shell.
Right. I feel like the stage is the only place I can sort of just be I have no limits on stage. Like I can say whatever I want. And I feel like in life, I'm constantly editing myself, but on stage, I do not edit myself.
Yeah. One of the things about your work is, that's another one of these questions, like, how personal is comedy? How personal is your stand-up comedy? How personal does it have to be? And yours seems very personal. Like, you tell stories, and hilarious stories. And I don't think it could exist without a super, like, putting your ass on the line. Like, you really put your ass on the line. You say, like, this is me. This is a story about a date I went on with a guy with a frog. And, like, did you make a choice somewhere along the line where you're like, I got to be as possible?
I feel like I have to share my stories because then I need to know if other people have weird stories.
Somebody just subscribed. That was good.
Oh, good.
We like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I think that's probably true. Sometimes as comedians, we're going like, I had this experience. Did you have it too? I mean, that's the response you're trying to, and maybe it also gives you like an objective. I'm going to try and find out if these people are experiencing what I'm experiencing, because it's really, I don't understand it.
And I feel like it's a conversation on stage with the audience. So I want to know, like, I think it's just relating to each other. Like, look, either A, you relate to me, or B, you're so glad you're not me. And if I've accomplished one of those two things, I'm great.
Do you find that your comedy works better in some clubs than others?
Oh, yeah.
Venues? What is your like favorite venue?
I really like a venue where I know no one there in the audience. I like a venue that I don't know if there's a specific venue. I mean, I'm enjoying the D Cups. I do that on Tuesdays, pretty much every Tuesday at State Social. But I just like a venue that isn't too set up punchy. I'm not crazy over comedy clubs. I like the more alternative spaces.
Yeah. Have you noticed that there's more alternative spaces in Los Angeles than there used to be?
Oh, yeah. Well, now it feels like it's mostly alternative spaces. So when I started comedy 30 years ago, there was like a few. There was Beth Lapidus's alt comedy, and there was then a few other shows, but that was about it.
Yeah. I love Beth Lapidus.
Yeah,
it's a lot. It's a lot,
yeah.
she says.
Yeah.
She's been on the show too. I know.
I love Beth.
I enjoy it. I really enjoy it too. I've lately been having people on the show that are in this clown movement as well, which there's a lot of like people that are kind of like, I don't want to do the traditional thing. I want to do my own thing.
I'm not sure I understand clown.
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. It's hard to explain.
Right, because to me, isn't that just what we did? Isn't that just kind of being nutty on stage?
It seems like, to me, well, there's a lot of improv people going that way. And there's also a lot of people that are like actual circus clowns going there. So it's like a convergence of improv people and circus people. And like they birth their like own thing. But then it seems like avant-garde theater to me, you know?
Yeah, there's a lot of women dressing like men. I feel like, and not wearing their shirts.
Yeah.
And then making hairy chests. Like, I feel like,
I think that's one person you're talking about.
No, I saw someone else other people wear
imitation
their shirts.
is the sincerest form of flattery.
It is. I did see her do an amazing show about laying eggs.
I hear that show is incredible.
That was incredible. There was so much social. Yeah, I mean, to me, that was avant-garde theater.
Yeah, yeah. That's the way I feel too.
It's very just kind of weird, cool theater. Yeah.
Maybe things come around, and the longer you live, the more you have seen a couple cycles happen. So you're like, this isn't like invented. This is like something that was cool a while ago and then maybe got lost because people started dissing on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I always wanted to do a show where like I literally just lay on stage in a coffin and then like everyone comes and everyone's waiting for the show to start. And it never starts. It just never ever starts. And then the theater will be that.
Yeah.
Of the people are like, what's going on? Where is this? Is she okay? Like literally like, yeah. I just want to listen to the audience just completely go, what's she doing?
I think that would be very interesting. I think you should do it. I think you should do it. Wasn't there like a Philip Glass concert where he never played the piano? It was called.
Oh, I don't know.
It was called like that. Before the Performance, and he would come out, sit at the piano, and just sit there. I don't know if that actually happened, but it sounds great. I actually one time in my mind, this sounds really weird, but I had a funeral for myself. I just imagined what the funeral would be like. Me in the coffin.
Is
that some kind of therapy or something?
No, but I think that's not so uncommon.
Yeah.
People imagining what their funeral. I mean, this morning I was walking and I saw some bugs and I went, oh, don't remind me. I'll get eaten by bugs. I feel like they're just, I feel like bugs just look at me like, one day we're going to eat you.
It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
We'll be here.
Yeah. Which is why I probably hate them so much. Yeah.
I felt like the funeral for myself was really helpful because I was like, oh, that guy's dead now. I don't have to worry about him and his ego and all his stuff that he needs. Yeah, obviously. Sometimes on this show we get into the idea of non-duality. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would have a hard time even explaining it. And I brought on a couple of people who are like experts and who have had this moment. Sometimes it's a near-death experience where all of a sudden everything just kind of Eckhart Tolle's on them.
Yeah.
If that's a verb. I don't know if that's a verb.
No, it is. And they sit on a park bench for a year. I'm not sure how he got his food, where he
But
ate.
yes, that's where I come from. That's where I get
I'm
to.
like, are you just a privileged guy that could sit on a bench for a year?
Exactly.
So I never understood that. Eckhart Tolle. He lives in California now. I think a little north. But
I love the premise.
Yeah.
It's just the punchline that kind of hurts.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I'm just like, oh, come on. I definitely dove into all of that stuff for many, many, many years. I befriend the bugs.
Especially the cockroaches.
You know what? That's probably a good idea. So then when I'm there, I won't be lonely in the ground.
Yeah.
Because they'll be like, oh, it's Lisa. Don't eat her.
Yep. You are weird. This is a response to befriending the cockroaches. Kamala says, I had a friend once who did a show where he just slept on stage for hours and people would just come in and watch him sleep.
I love that.
Yeah. I wonder if I would be able to sleep.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd be able to sleep, but
or
maybe I'd
relaxation.
fall asleep. Yeah. Yeah.
I guess if you did it long enough, you would.
Yeah.
There is also there's another guy in town who spends days on stage.
Oh.
And then he will also have dates where women come and they have a date. And it just is part of the show.
That's so odd. You know what? It's performance art, right? And I think clowning is like performance art in a way.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think so.
It's nothing new.
Yeah.
When I met Stormy Daniels, I was wearing this outfit with my purple backpack with all my podcast producer equipment in it. And she was kind and sweet. And my first thought was, wow, she's so tall and glamorous and seems so smart. And with my trousers and my new flat chest and my Birkenstocks, I just felt like Woody Allen next to her. Once we had Kathy Griffin on the podcast, and Kathy was so kind to her. Kathy and I went to drama school together, but she didn't remember me or recognize me. And I always felt a little jealous of Kathy's success, actually very jealous of Kathy's success. I really liked her in school, but I thought maybe she became an asshole. But really, I was the one that was an asshole, thinking she was an asshole.
I love this. I'll wait for the applause to die down. But I love this, your Instagram. It's so specific and unusual. How did you come to that idea of doing it that way?
Well, I was doing a challenge where you had to wear, you couldn't buy anything for 75 days. And it was 75 hard style challenge. And I was doing that with my friend Laura, who I think was on. Oh, hello, Johnny. And so I was doing that challenge, and then I started just putting voiceover under them. And then everyone kept saying to me, I love when you do the voiceover.
So cool.
And then it just sort of went into that. And then I did every day for about, I think it was like 160 days every day.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
If I was Woody Allen, I would have hit on Stormy. That's very true, Ginny. Yeah. So, right. So I, so that's how it just sort of happened. And, I've been a voiceover actor forever, and I love clothes. My retirement is basically my wardrobe. So
your retirement is your wardrobe.
Yeah. Cause I'm an actor.
So were your parents actors? Both of them?
Yeah. Well, my dad was an actor. And he actually started in the radio business, but he was like a Yale trained actor, very actory, and very successful voiceover actor. And then my mother, I think she was just dramatic.
Well, that's acting for sure.
Yeah.
I heard your dad on your podcast, and he was hilarious. He's hilarious. You can tell he's like somebody that is just a pro.
It's so funny. He said to me afterwards, he goes, I listened to some other ones and I thought, I thought I was supposed to do shtick the whole time, but was that not the point?
I like what he did a lot. You were like, okay, are you going to do this the whole time? And he's like, what am I doing? I'm entertaining people.
Yeah. I was like, no, we're supposed to get into it. But
Yeah. Did you work with him in that making radio commercials?
I did for years and years and years. When I got divorced, I was basically living on commercials, doing on-camera commercials in like TV shows, and that just was not enough to support a child.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was like, "Why don't you just drive me to work every day?" And I was
Yeah.
like, he goes, "I'll pay you to drive me to work," because he's a terrible driver,
Uh-huh.
was a terrible driver. And so I did that. And then I was sitting there. He goes, "Do you want to try and write a commercial?" And everyone in the office is like, "Oh, great. Now his daughter's going to write a commercial." And I wrote a really funny commercial and everybody went, "What?"
Well,
What?
were you a comedian at the time?
I was doing comedy at the time. I was doing stand up at the time. And I was doing a lot of solo shows back then.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know why they didn't think I could write comedy.
Yeah.
And then,
Nepo baby.
Yeah. Eventually I took over the whole company.
Wow.
Yeah. And they work for me now.
Oh my God. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
What has happened with you were saying radio commercials, people aren't doing them as much anymore. Is that
Well,
right?
they're not doing them as much. They just, everybody can make their own commercial in their garage. They think that that's fine. It's not fine.
Yeah.
It's not, you're not going to, there's a whole science behind making a comedy radio commercial to make people listen, and they don't really get that.
I
But they're
noticed
like,
that there's like a story to yours, and it's almost like old time radio programming, that used to
Yeah.
be the show, but now your
Yeah.
commercials are like that. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
then it makes it part of the show that you want to watch, you want to hear.
Yeah, their story driven ads.
Yeah.
So that are stories that push the
It's
the
not fun
product
at
or
all.
service. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Johnny Molson says it's not fine at all. At all.
No, it's at all. I agree. Yeah, he knows. Right.
Now,
Yeah.
so I sometimes get in the car and the radio's on. Usually I listen to like podcasts and things like that, but the radio will be on because my wife was listening to it, and I listen to the commercials, and they're so annoying. And I find radio commercials in general kind of grating, like the, thing about the mattress is free or whatever,
It's free. Yeah. Deal with the deal.
and deal with it. I find that sort of terrible. But then when I listen to your commercials, I'm like, oh, these are hilarious. These are really funny.
Yeah. I know, if people just understood that you're going to get more people to listen if it's a valuable story that relates to the person you're selling to. Yeah.
Are you segueing that now to podcasting and the internet?
No. So I decided like 7 years ago
Mm-hmm.
when my dad passed away that I was going to go fully into podcasting because I just did not think I wanted to be the Radio Ranch. Like I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
And it made me sad. And so I went fully into podcasting,
Mm-hmm.
completely, made my own shows, and then eventually started producing other people's podcasts.
Wow.
And now I've been producing Michael Cohen's podcast for 3.5, 4 years.
Wow.
And then Stormy's podcast. So yeah. But these
Really?
are my podcasts.
These are yours, but then there's
Yeah.
something called Podcast Pizza. Let me
Yeah.
see where
And
that is.
that's the other. Oh, you have to go over
To work with me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go
To the
there.
least. Yeah. I like my website. It's
I
cute.
love
think
your
it's cute.
website. Well, let's
Yeah,
go.
super.
Let's show the website because it's really creative in itself and different. Because a lot of us have these split personalities.
Oh yeah.
You have visualized that for us.
Yeah.
Play with me, comedy stories, and you open up that door, and there you are being wacky.
Yeah.
And then you open
Yeah.
up that door, and there you are consulting
Yeah.
with your coffee. And,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's in this one.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting. So this is Podcast Pizza. These are some of the podcasts. There's the Mia
Yeah.
Culpa, the Michael
yeah.
Cohen one, and the Stormy
Yeah.
Daniels one. I don't know if that's there.
Yeah. Oh no, I should put Stormy up there.
Yeah,
I haven't put
definitely.
Stormy. She didn't do it for very long
Mm-hmm.
because she had a court case pending.
Yes, I've heard of that. Heard something about that.
So yeah, so she didn't. But I should put Stormy. It would fit in that little corner right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and I've done so many more since then. I should update this.
Mm-hmm. That's
Yeah.
cool.
But now I went out of podcasting.
You did?
I do. I went out. I'm like want to go back into just making commercials and doing stand up.
Yeah. And what was it about podcasting that made you? I noticed that one of your podcasts, I think it's Honestly Lisa, kind of evolved.
It did.
It started out as something like men are okay, or what's it called?
Men have feelings too.
Men have
so I'd
feelings
gone
too.
through a bad breakup, and
Yeah.
I was confused, and I thought I'm just gonna start interviewing men to see if they actually have feelings. And it turns out they do.
Yeah.
Just different than our feelings.
Yes.
And so I did that, and then it evolved into me trying to find myself. So then I interviewed like my rabbi, my dad, my brothers, like spiritual leaders, gurus, all kinds of people. And then it became me talking to my mother when I went through my breast cancer. So then I would just, every morning I would just record myself having a conversation with my dead mother.
Wow.
And
Yeah, and so
And it
they're
was-
like short. They're short little things, but very insightful and very
yeah,
personal.
yeah.
And it was kind of interesting. What made you continue it on the same thread, like not even make like a new podcast?
And you know what? I was so tired of making more. Every
Yeah.
time you start a podcast, it's a lot to do.
I know.
It's a lot to do. And I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to let this one just keep morphing. Like it's just going to be my body of work. And so I need to revisit it. I haven't in a while. Like Project Woo Woo is its own podcast,
Yeah.
and Love Bites is its own podcast.
I love
but
Project Woo Woo. That's my favorite one.
yeah, me too.
So can you tell us about that and how that came about?
Yeah. So at first, I was working for all of these self-help podcast guys, and I thought it would be funny to do a mock one.
Yes.
And so I wanted to do a mock one. And there's someone who kind of does that now. But so that was but I quickly realized that most stand-up comedians and actors I knew did not live in the self-help world like I did. So if I said to someone, could you play Tim Ferriss? They'd be like, let me research who that is. Or if I'm like, will you play Eckhart Tolle? Actually, I don't think I had Eckhart Tolle
that would be
on.
a good one.
You should do Eckhart Tolle.
I would love to do Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah. So and it's just sort of morphed into anybody that I could have a conversation with. So that's why it looks more yoga-y, self-helpy. The
initial
artwork.
concept was that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was
but
like,
then
yeah,
you
I'm
had
not
like
gonna
Eddie
change
Van Halen on there, and
Yeah.
it's funny.
I did at Lincoln. I had President Lincoln on there.
I love that because we all have opinions about these people. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
sometimes we're just like, screw that guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
After we've really gone down the road. But we know all kinds of things about them, like Eddie
Right.
Van Halen, we know all kinds of stuff about him. And I noticed the guy who was playing Eddie Van Halen, he had some trivia that was actually true. Or
Yeah.
at least it was part of the legend.
It is. It's part of the legend. Like they'll do their research. It's usually someone they love
Yeah.
and that they embrace, and that's how that works. So, like Dr. Phil was my friend Carly from Australia, who's a
Really?
podcaster, but she loved Dr. Phil.
Oh my God.
And knew all about him. And then she didn't change her Australian accent or anything. Like, I'm like, don't change. Like, if you sound like a woman, sound like a woman. My boyfriend did Dr. Ruth.
Oh my God, that's great.
Yeah. So you could play any sex you
Ariana
want. and you
Huffington. Yeah, you had an Ariana
Yeah.
Huffington one too.
I
That's
did.
fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Some really, I like Bob Dylan a lot. That's one of my favorites.
Oh, I didn't hear that one. That would
Yeah.
be
And
good.
we sing at the end together, Bob and I.
No
and,
way. Really?
Yeah. Yeah. And, he was a brilliant comedian who passed away, but he also played Carl Jung as well.
Really?
So, yeah.
So there's a lot of people in voiceover that can do all kinds of amazing things with their voices. How did you get into voiceover because of the radio commercials, or how did you get into it?
Yeah. I'm basically, because I'm a Nepo baby. So I started doing voiceover when I was a kid, forced to do like play all the kids. and then as I got older, I started playing more people. And then eventually I got an agent and started working outside of the ranch and as well. And so I started really, really, really young doing voiceover, and I was trained by the best, like literally. They were so hard on me. Like they were harder on me than they would normally be because, they were family or friends of family, and they were like, one of the things they always, I think early on that I did that I think this is a thing a lot of people do, is that they play themselves instead of be themselves. So they'll
Yeah.
put on a voice. Oh, I'm going to put on a voice. And it's like, you're always yourself. You're just a different aspect of yourself.
Yeah. I think that's a
So-
really good acting note.
Yeah.
Speaking of acting classes,
Once I took acting classes with Shelley Winters, who was an amazing teacher, but really didn't like my name. She wanted me to change my name from Lisa to Ollie. Ollie Orkin, that's who you must be. And you need to get a perm, you should have curly hair. And then she had me do this very sexy scene. And when I did it, she went, I'm just not getting real sexy vibes off of you. Have you had a lot of sex in your life? And then she said, I bet a girl named Ollie would have a lot of sex. Not sure what I learned in that class, but I did get a perm.
oh my God, you did get a perm. That's hilarious. I love that story.
Yeah, Shelley Winters. She was something.
Did you take acting classes at some point, or
Yeah.
besides Shelley Winters, or maybe that was the main one?
Yeah, I went to London for like a summer
Oh
program
yeah,
with Rada. Yeah.
Really, with
And
Rada.
then-
Wow.
Yeah, and then I came back and I left high school and went to Strasbourg.
Yes, I hear
was-
you were doing musicals along the Rhine or something.
Oh yeah, and then I got married really young
Yeah.
to my high school sweetheart, and we moved to Germany because he was in the military. A whole different life. Like
yeah, completely.
I'm like a liberal Jewish girl who like grew up in Toluca Lake. What am I doing in the military as a military? So I joined the German theater. They needed musical performers, and that's what I
Really?
did. So yeah, I did Evita. I did Love's Labor's Lost. I did a bunch of different shows with them. It was a wild
Must have
wild
been
time.
fun.
Yeah,
So
it was really fun.
your
They
husband's
paid
like
her.
in the military, and you're off on it like this whole theater trip.
Yeah.
That must have been cool. That must have been really
Yeah,
cool.
he was doing his thing, and then I was doing my thing. And then because I didn't the housewives were not really that interesting to me,
Yeah.
and because I didn't relate to them in any way, so I had to go find my group of actors,
Yeah.
and that's what I did.
Sometimes things like that, you look back and you're like, that was the best time. That was, you know what I mean? Even though we're kind of going, I got to get out of here. What am I doing in Germany?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I rode my bike. They paid me to be in the theater. They gave me health insurance because I'm
Oh my
Jewish. They
God.
gave me great health, even though I
Wow.
had military health insurance. This was better. Yeah.
Wow. That is
Yeah.
cool. So what do you do to kind of keep your creative flow going? You know, because there's so many different avenues that you take. Do you meditate, or do you have coaches or anything like that keep you kind of on a track?
I walk every morning.
Yeah.
I walk every morning for
Oh.
about 45 minutes. That's really my meditation. And then I do yoga. Like this morning, I did a yoga class. So I just do those two things, and then I have a therapist.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's the therapist, there's the psychiatrist, there's the drugs, the antidepressants. So, all of that keeps.
How do you help other people with their like podcasts?
I help them sort of concept and figure out what it is that they need to say and what they want to say, and if it has legs. As you know, like a lot of times people have great ideas and it'll go like three podcasts and be done. And so, and then I help them organize because it's a lot of organizing podcasts.
You're
It's
super organized. It seems
I'm
like.
I'm not only in my podcast world.
I beg to differ, because you're just the fact your Instagram is so well kind of branded, and
Oh.
so consistent. And I've noticed that about your website too, that it's very organized. So you think you're more organized in the digital world than you are in the physical world?
Absolutely. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. And it's funny. A friend of mine wanted to do some work with me, and I looked to see her website. She had no website.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I am. That's exactly right. I'm very organized in my digital world, and I'm not in my life.
Don't you feel like that organizing is really one of the key features that people don't talk about necessarily about being a comedian or being
Yeah.
a podcaster? Because, a lot of times comedians give off this this feeling that they're like not good enough. They're always talking about things that are like they're a loser, or they have trouble in life, everything's difficult. Even the most successful ones.
Yeah.
Jim Gaffigan, I think of. He talks about, he can't keep his weight down. He's always doing weird things. It's hilarious, but it gives gives off the idea that the person is not a hard worker and not organized. And people like that have to be.
Yeah, it's so interesting. The other day I was watching the Olympics and I thought, wow, if I would just put half as much energy into my career as they put into their gymnastics,
Yeah.
could you imagine?
Right? Could you
Like,
imagine?
I was like, what? Like, that's crazy. Like, but I think that's true. You have to be organized as a creative person, at least as a comedian. You have to write down. Like the other day I riffed for 10 minutes on stage. Great riff.
Yeah.
Ginny was there. I didn't record it.
Yeah. I always record it. I always record it because and sometimes, like I was in Chicago. You're going to be in Chicago next month.
I am.
Right?
Yeah.
I was in Chicago. I was at the Lincoln Lodge. I was there for a business trip, and I just hit all the mics I could. And I went into one of them, and I brought my camera and stand or whatever, and people were kind of looking at me like, this guy thinks he's all that because he's going to film himself. I really felt like they were giving me shit about it. And the thing is, I'm just trying to capture maybe a second of funny that I can use someday to save myself on stage.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking like I'm all that and this is going to be so hilarious. But I always
an LA thing.
I don't know. That's what I wondered, because then after that, I did this whole set. I mean, it was this thing where it was called 8-bit, and it was a really neat idea. And you could sign up online, and I got in, and you were supposed to do 8 minutes on one bit. And I had just come from Los Angeles, and I was in the airport and stuff, so I decided I'd do a bit on airports. So I did this whole bit but I took this stance of I love airports because you're so free, you leave everything behind, and I love going through the TS. Everything I was making everything great. You go through the TSA, people touch you sometimes. They look at you. They take pictures of you. I was just going on and on and on about it for 8 minutes, and you weren't allowed to change topic or you were done. So afterwards, this girl gets up on stage, just starts ripping on me for being white privileged, because she is like Indian, and so when she goes through the TSA, it's a horrible experience. And I was just kind of like, there was part of me that wanted to talk back and defend myself, but I didn't. But I really felt like, also I was I introduced myself by saying I just flew in from Los Angeles, because that was just kind of the lead in. But sometimes I feel like when you go to other cities, people hate you because you're from Los Angeles, and it's like, we hate ourselves anyway, so we don't need you to hate us.
I think LA is a comedy explosion right now.
It really
There's
is.
comedy any time of day, everywhere.
Yeah.
Anywhere in this, you're like, I don't want to leave the valley and I want to do it in the afternoon.
Yeah.
There will be 3 places I could go.
There will be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any time of day.
Yeah. And I've only been back doing stand-up for a year.
Mm-hmm.
I had left for a good over 10 years.
Yeah.
And the people that are in stand-up today are so much nicer.
Oh, that's good to hear. I think there's a really good community.
There's a great community, all kinds of really kind people. I've met amazing people that I really enjoy and really love, like Ginny, I'm just like, yeah, this is great.
I am really enjoying it as well. Occasionally you'll run across some old school people that will, but in Chicago, I was really surprised. It felt sort of cutthroat. And I had lived there years before for some time, and I had never done stand up there before, but I don't know whether I went to other places and it was super fun. And in general, everybody was cool, except for I had never had that experience. And maybe that's because the community is different here in Los Angeles. We have our roasts where you're expected to roast each other, which I don't do.
Yeah. And honestly, we would, if somebody did that, we would talk to that person and go, okay, first of all, are you okay?
Yeah, right.
And secondly, I'm not sure how that made the other comic feel. Like, we're very conscious. We are very conscious comedians where it's like, did he do a rape joke that he never gets up again? You know?
Do you think that is good for comedy?
I do.
Yeah, I do too.
I do. I don't think you need to put other people down to be funny.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to be mean.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's good for comedy. I think, if you're going to be a shitty person and you're on stage and I've seen guys get on stage and just start talking about how much they hate some group.
I know.
And I'm like, I think that's called anti-Semitism. I'm not sure, but
I don't think that's allowed in life. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, are we going to really be with you in that? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
What are you trying to do with the audience? I mean, I guess it comes back to what we were talking about is like, are you concerned about whether the audience is going to be with you or not? Like, it's kind of painful to go that route. Where
It is. Yeah. And you'll see it's mostly guys. I call it the Joe Roganization of stand up.
Yeah. I've noticed there's a lot of alpha males on stage that maybe there weren't before.
Yeah, they're alpha males that you actually talk about how much they get laid, and you're like, you do not. You're such a liar.
And like, do I even want to hear about it? Like, sometimes I just am like, is that funny? Or sometimes in my mind I'm like, wow, when I was young, I must have been doing it wrong or something because I do not have that experience. But maybe it's just a different life. But I think, there's like Matt Rife and some people out there that are like just ripped and doing like this kind of comedy where they their crowd work is sort of like coming on to the audience, coming on to whoever's in the audience. And then there's these other people that are just into MMA fighting. And they're just all, testosteroned up. And I find it hard to relate to. But I also feel like a lot of those people are moving out of Los Angeles because Los Angeles seems a lot kinder than that, strangely enough.
Yeah. And I think people don't realize that about LA. They think we're mean and the business is tough. And it may be true, but the performers and the creative people are all pretty kind to each other because we know how rough it can be.
Yeah. I've heard that. I've heard that people cynically say, in Los Angeles, you can die of encouragement.
Oh, that's funny.
That's too cynical, though, for me. I'm just
I
think I want encouragement. Yeah. I mean, the industry itself is not, like when you go to audition to be on Netflix or be on the network or something, that is cutthroat. It is.
Look, I audition for for commercials all the time on camera, and that's like sometimes they're so rude. Okay, thanks. Am I done?
Yeah.
Does that mean I'm done? Yeah. Or but is that a direction? What is that?
Well, we're routinely used to being rejected, completely ghosted.
Yeah.
Like the only time that we get any real feedback is if we get the part. And even then, you go to the set and you do the thing and you still don't really know why you got the part or what happened or who liked you.
No, and then like no one will talk to you on the set.
Yeah.
Like literally nobody talks to you and you feel like everyone's looking at like the leads won't talk to you. Like no one will talk to you. And then like if they want you to do a change, the writer will whisper in the director's ear. And then the director goes, "Could you please?" And you're like, "Couldn't you have just said that to me?"
There's like an order of the way things go.
Yeah, and are you going to take away my laugh lines because the star doesn't want me to have them?
Yeah, there is that too. Yeah, there's a lot
of
interesting things. I think that. Do you think there are more comedians? A lot more comedians now than there were when you started.
Yeah, but what do you think? A lot more
funny ones?
Comedians?
Yeah, no. Yeah. I think the one great thing about comedy is it's difficult, and it's difficult for everybody, and so you really have to kind of put the time in. But it also is a great way for people just to dabble too. They love to like go and express themselves at a mic, and I think there's something good about that.
Yeah, I don't really have a problem with that. There's a lot of, just don't call yourself a comedian.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a comedian. Like, I have a tough time saying I'm a comedian, and I've been doing it a really long time. But I guess call yourself a comedian. Why am I being so?
I kind of thought that too. I heard somebody say that. Well, you can't call themselves a comedian, but I'm kind of like, you know what? Do it. Life is short.
Who cares? I've changed my mind.
See if you can live up to it.
Yeah, call yourself a comedian and then go out there and do it. I think it takes 7 years to become a comedian.
Yeah.
I think it's about 7 years. And I was just talking to a friend of mine and she agrees, 7 years.
And it's also got to be sort of 7 years in a row.
Consistently. On stage like at least 3 times a week.
I mean, you're going to drop out for a while, but still, I mean, because what do you think made you stop doing stand-up comedy the first time? Was it because of family? Was it because of obligations? Or was it because you were like, this is boring, I'm not doing this anymore? I
was at the Comedy Store. I was a regular at the Comedy Store. This is sort of a deal in my life. And hello, you're a
Jason
clown. I
says
love
he's a
that.
clown. He's defining
see,
himself
just
as a clown. Everybody should
admit
define
it.
themselves as whatever they want to be at any
Yeah,
moment.
exactly.
We're allowing that.
And I kept getting like, so I had like a 7:15 slot. Mitzi handpicked me. It was a great thing.
Yeah.
And then Eddie Griffin would come in, and I would get bumped later and later, and then he would just blow out the audience with like his sex comedy.
Yeah.
And then I'd get on stage with my not sex comedy, and I'd have to do some to get the audience to listen to me.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to do more. Like it wasn't enough to do 15 minutes.
What do you think now? Now when you do that? Oh, I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt you.
No.
Continue.
I think in a way I blew it because I should have hung out with the comedians while I was going out and doing my solo shows. Because all those comedians at the Comedy Store now are super successful people and actors. A lot of them that I hung out with who were also regulars like me or door people.
Yeah.
You know, and so
like Mark Maron and people like that.
Yeah. Tommy Lee.
The drummer for
No,
Motley
that's
Crue?
No.
There might be another.
Yes,
Oh no, there is another
yes.
Tommy Lee. Yes, him too. Him too.
Yeah. So
Tommy Lee. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think I should have, woulda, coulda stayed around the stand-ups more because I would have eventually found my stand-up family that I belonged to. And I didn't. I started doing solo shows. I had a band. I was on my own, renting theaters and trying to do it that way.
Yeah.
And
that
did
seems
for years.
smart. That seems smart, but just do both.
Yeah, I should have done both, but I was too tired. I worked a full-time job, raised a child, and it was
Oh my
too much.
God. You know what? That's
Right.
what you also, that's your life. Like, we make our own lives.
Yeah,
And it's just-
exactly. Yeah. And, and then I did a show at the UCB with a friend for years, and then that turned into a film, and that was a great
What was that
project.
film?
It's
I haven't
called
come
Fully
across-
Loaded.
Oh.
The
really?
film, and it started with 2 years at UCB doing it on the weekends, and then I think you can watch it on Amazon actually.
I'm looking for it.
And then some famous people saw it and thought, wow, I think
There it is.
it could be a
A series?
bigger thing. And then it went to the festivals, and
Oh.
yeah,
Well, that's
so,
cool. I just found it
Yes.
on IMDb. But there
Oh
it is.
yeah,
Jeremy
there I am.
Piven, Adam McKay.
Yeah.
My God.
I know.
That's
It
cool.
looks like it did really well. It's
Yeah.
amazing how in Hollywood you can make things look like that. That's Paula.
You can make
Yeah.
things look like that.
Yeah.
Well, it's all that, really. Let's face it. It's
Right.
all that.
Yeah.
Laura Kay
Yeah.
says Fully Loaded is a great watch. All right.
Aw, thanks, Laura.
I'm going to watch that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
How
And it's
cool.
not an Adam McKay film where it's like, falling down funny. It's a more thoughtful film.
It's cool. Dweezil Zappa was even in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
So did you know when you were doing that, were you like, we're going to make a film out of this thing? It just kind of happened.
It just happened.
Do you think that's the
think
best
that's-
process do you think, okay, here's the thing. Go to these casting director workshops, things like that, where it's really toxic and they go, it's show business. They're always like saying it's show business. Stop concentrating on the show, concentrate on the business. And I've never really been able to do that. But this morning I was kind of like, you know what? I think I'm going to let myself be okay with that. Just this morning though.
Yeah. Although you are doing business. This is business. This is show business.
Yeah,
You're
but there's
creating
not
a
there's
product.
no real scratch coming in. You know what I mean? I've got
Right.
Patreons. I love that. I got people. I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
I may even going, you know what, Joel? You have everything you ever wanted. You have a house
Yeah.
at the pool in Los Angeles. You have a beautiful wife. You have cats.
You have a house with a
You have your
pool?
own show. Yes. And
You
I'm
have
like,
more
what are you
than one-
complaining about, you idiot?
Yeah, you got more than one cat.
Yeah, I've got
And a
3
house at
cats.
3 cats and a house with a pool.
Yeah,
Go
come on.
home. Yeah.
Give me a break.
I think it's both. I think,
Yeah.
I used to do casting director workshops all the time, and that's how I got most of my sitcom work. That's how they got to know me. I'm such a specific type, though.
Yeah.
That's why I think it worked for me.
That's what somebody was saying about those too. I mean, I've done a ton of casting director, and during COVID, There
Yeah,
was
what are you
all
gonna
these
do?
Zoom ones, and so I was
Yeah.
doing them, and they were like, "We love it. We love your work." I mean, I'm not complaining. I'm just
Right.
saying, I don't think that works for me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it works.
Yeah, I think it's like, it's funny. I'll be doing my stand up and then I'm like, I got to make this into a living. Like, what am I thinking? And then I'm
Yeah.
like, no, just enjoy it.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, no, like it goes back and forth all the time. Yeah. I mean, I am editing all day. My podcast producing just turned into an editing job.
That's the thing.
basically, I'm an editor.
Yeah.
And they call it a producer, but I edit all day long by myself. And you know what? That's not fun.
You're like, I didn't want to do that. I could.
No, that was not the plan.
I think that might be why I stopped doing my podcast originally, Fat Free Film, because that was another
Yeah.
thing that I look back on and go, you should have hung in with that thing, because then people, iPhones came out and all that stuff. But I also got to a point where I was like so sick of editing, and that now they have better tools.
Yeah.
I used to have to write the XML code to put the thing up, and then also editing the podcast.
God.
Now you can edit by the text even.
Yeah.
know?
Well, it doesn't, like
It's
on
not
Descript,
perfect.
but it's not perfect. You
Yeah.
still have to throw it into like a Adobe Audition or something. Yeah. And but it is much easier to edit at this point. So,
Mama J says she loves the interview
thank
so
you.
much. That's nice. Yeah.
That's so cool. So I think it's an easier to do a podcast, but you just got to do what you love. And then when it's done, and then move on to the next thing. And, maybe at some point I'll look back and go, look at all these little cool things I did, all these, but right now stand-up's really fun and I'm focused on that and just acting.
Cool. Do you do vision boards or anything? Do you have like a 5-year plan? I want to be there. This place.
No, never.
Do you have a strategy? Like, I'm going to do this,
no.
and then I'm going to do this, and then that's going to do this. You're just
Sometimes
enjoying it.
I'm just enjoying it. Sometimes I'll do that. Like, I'll make a strategy. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this for a while. But for a podcast, that works much better, a strategy.
Yes, I think
Like,
so.
you need a strategy. It's a lot of work doing a podcast. You need a strategy going in. So, but I think with the rest of it, I'm just trying to get through, I think I'm just trying to keep a roof over my head and understand and why I'm not more successful at this point in my life. Yeah.
We had a guy on the show who's a Cirque du Soleil director, and his name is Stefan Haves, and he teaches clown. And he said the performer gets on stage and their main objective is to survive. And after you do the thing, you feel so great because you survived.
That's so true.
It's so true.
That's it. Actually, that's exactly right. You do. You just like, please let me get off here alive. Yeah.
Don't let me get hurt or die up here.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had some moments where you just go, are you
Yeah.
rushing the stage because you're a drunk? Are you seriously, are you trying to get on the stage? Because I'm going to cry and run away.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, okay. So at the end of the show, which I didn't tell you, we've reached the end of the show, unfortunately. This has been so interesting having you on the show and so much fun. We do a thing called a dance break. And I play a song from the YouTube, from the tubes, and we dance. Now, you can get up and dance, or you can just sit and dance, or you can just tap your feet, whatever you want to do.
I gotta feel it. I mean, I love to dance. I'm a wild. I'll have to take off my headphones, but
Okay.
yeah.
I've got, don't trip and fall or anything. I've got a different kind of thing today. And I might even have to cut this off at the end of the show because it might be like, I might get in trouble for it. But there's a K-pop band that dances in public in Venice that I found. And I'm going to play them. They're going to do a lot of dancing. I'm going to try and dance. It's only going to be like a minute or so. I'm going to try and dance like them. And that's my objective. Lowercase says dorky dancing returns. Yeah.
I used to do this dorky dancing thing all the time. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So don't feel obligated, but just like everything on this show, it's just about fun. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you. That was so fun. I loved it.
Really appreciate it. And thank you to Ginny Sykes too for hooking us
Ginny.
up. All right,
Yeah.
Ginny. All right. See you in the dance break.
Okay, I love it.
Okay, here they are. K-pop in public.
Turn it up right now.
Hey, don't you wanna taste? Make you wanna put your tongue on money cake. Don't let a bite go to waste. 남김없이 icing까지. 오늘의 시격을 억제하지 마. Let's get going, 이래서 coming이라. 원하는 그 맛의 이상일 거야. Put it on your body, yeah.
Baby on the box, get the night. Straight to the cave from a winner. Baby, I ain't no beginner. 끝이 멀었어, 아직은 남아 LA. 아쉬움이 남지 않도록 go to work. 살살게 물어 입에 묻혀 침이 흘러. Fit the out.